Previously, a major forest fire disaster hit the United States. Now recently, an ally of the United States, namely Israel, is also overwhelmed by the flames that threaten its territory. According to reports, a major fire occurred in the city areas of Esta, Beit Meir, and Meselet Zion near Jerusalem, which caused panic among residents and the government. In fact, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reportedly asked for help from neighboring countries to deal with the increasingly uncontrollable fires amidst the Israeli army's intense attacks on the Gaza Strip, which caused many children to become victims because bombs were dropped on refugee camps. Israel finally suffered a natural disaster, karma for this ally of the United States, not a retaliatory attack from the enemy, but an attack from hellfire. This fire immediately caused mass panic among Israeli citizens. Initially, the fire started at the foot of the Judean hills, then quickly spread to the forests around Jerusalem and settlements in Beit Shemesh. The severe hot weather made the fire spread even faster, devouring thousands of hectares of land. Thousands of residents had to be evacuated from several cities, and transportation in the area was also paralyzed. The train lines at Ramlah, Beit Shemesh, Kiryat Malaki, and Kiryat Gat stations were forced to stop as the fire continued to advance. According to local Israeli media, more than 200 firefighters and 10 aircraft were deployed to try to control the fire. But dry conditions and strong winds made their work much harder. There is also speculation that the fire may have been caused by a missile attack from Yemen, although there has been no official confirmation of this so far. See how panicked Israelis were when faced with the increasingly large fire. The roads were completely jammed. Cars were scrambling to get out of the fire area. Highway 38 in the Beit Shemesh area had to be closed. The fire continued to spread towards Jerusalem, and evacuations had been announced in several villages, causing traffic jams everywhere. Not to mention there were fire trucks that were caught on fire amidst this chaos. Israeli media said that this large fire had almost reached the outskirts of Jerusalem, Beit Shemesh, and several other surrounding towns were also in danger. This was not a simulation. This was a real national emergency. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu immediately intervened. He arrived on the scene and mobilized all available firefighters. Aircraft were also deployed to help put out the fire, but the scale of the blaze and the vast area burned made it difficult for Israel to control it. Netanyahu eventually asked for help from abroad. So far, the fire has destroyed the Echepton Nature Reserve in central Israel, which was reopened just 2 years ago after a decade-long ecological restoration project. Officials say that some 215 dunams of land have been burned, making all the hard work of the past few years worth of work in vain. The fire quickly spread from the reserve to farmland in Mosfim, Petach Bediah, and Yatzit. It also temporarily closed roads and triggered a massive emergency response. More than 100 firefighters, planes, and helicopters were deployed to fight the fire. The Air Force is even scheduled to step in later that night after the aerial firefighting unit is temporarily suspended. According to a report from the Jerusalem Post, Netanyahu has also instructed the IDF and the Fire and Rescue Brigade to prepare additional aid from Greece and several other countries at night. So the most critical moment is when the embers that had been extinguished can reignite, and the wind will only make the fire bigger. Quoted from the Jerusalem Post, the major fires that hit Israel, although severe and forcing thousands of residents to evacuate, still cannot be compared to the humanitarian tragedy in Gaza. Thousands of hectares of land have indeed been burned, and the Netanyahu government is in a panic asking for help from other countries. But the situation is far different when compared to Gaza, which at the same time continues to be bombarded by Israeli military attacks. Reports from various sources, including humanitarian organizations, state that the attacks on Gaza have claimed tens of thousands of lives, mostly civilians, including children and women. Important infrastructure such as hospitals, schools, and people's homes have also been destroyed, further exacerbating the humanitarian crisis that has been going on for years. Many countries and human rights activists around the world have openly condemned Israel's actions. Some say this is a violation of international law. Some even call it genocide, referring to the extent of the destruction and suffering of the people of Gaza. This accusation has grown stronger after reports from organizations such as Amnesty International and the decision of the International Court of Justice, the ICJ, which in early 2024 had ordered Israel to prevent genocide in Gaza. On the other hand, Israel continues to defend itself. They say that the military operation was a form of response to Hamas attacks and security threats. Meanwhile, the world's anger is increasingly visible. One example came from Korea, where an activist stormed the Israeli embassy while they were eating at a restaurant to show their strong protest against what was happening in Gaza. In the end, although the massive fires in Esta and Beit Meir managed to shake Israel, destroy thousands of hectares of land, and force Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to intervene for help, the wounds left by the attacks in Gaza remain much deeper. Amid the panic and hard work to put out the fire, there is one voice that continues to echo in many circles. Is this fire just an ordinary natural disaster, or is nature actually giving a warning about Israel's actions, especially regarding the worsening humanitarian crisis in Gaza? While Israel is busy extinguishing the fires that are destroying forests and settlements, Gaza remains trapped in a much more terrible hell. Israel's military attacks have claimed tens of thousands of lives, most of them civilians, children, and women. Hospitals, schools, and even homes in Gaza have been razed to the ground. Millions of people now live without hope, trapped in a blockade and lacking the most basic necessities to survive. Amidst all this destruction, Israel still claims that their operations are only to defend themselves from security threats. But this claim only further angers the world. Gaza currently still needs our support. Calls to pressure Israel to stop the genocide in Gaza and end the occupation of various Palestinian territories must continue to be voiced. This is the only way to stop the ongoing atrocities. Our hearts are torn every time we see Gaza crying under the shadow of genocide, the cruelty of illegal occupation, and the destruction of humanity carried out by Israel and Palestine. It must be stopped immediately. This is not just a matter of religion, it is a matter of humanity, justice, and our conscience as human beings. We must not be silent. We must speak up louder, spread the truth, support the global call to stop Israeli aggression. Stand with Gaza, support humanitarian aid, and demand an immediate ceasefire. The world revolves in a harmony of cause and effect. No action is without consequence. In a land of constant turmoil, where prayer, blood, and revenge soak the earth, universal justice sometimes takes unexpected forms. That summer, Israel burned, not by rockets, not by guns, but by the fury of nature. A strong wind carried small embers into giant flames, devouring forests, homes, and farms. The sky turned gray, and the sun was hidden behind thick smoke that stinged the lungs. At the same time, far behind high walls and barbed wire barricades, Palestine wept, as it always has. The cries that for years might have been heard only as a silent echo now seem to be answered by the earth itself. Is this coincidence? Or is this karma? Whispers spread in cafes, in Jerusalem's narrow streets, among soldiers wiping sweat from their soot-stained faces. Those who once evicted, burned, and razed homes in Gaza now fled from their own homes, fleeing hungry flames. Global news reports showed the stark irony: evacuation vans filled with terrified families, just as they had in Khan Yunis, in Rafah, in Jabalia. Do you feel what they feel? Do you finally understand what it means to lose everything in one night? But the universe did not speak out loud. It only showed. Ordinary people, who may have never held a weapon, were among the victims. Children cried, animals died, centuries-old trees were reduced to ashes. Some bowed their heads and asked themselves, perhaps for the first time, why is this happening to us? World leaders spoke out, expressing sympathy, sending aid. But not all helping hands are clean from blood. Not all praying voices are free from political whispers. In the silence, many begin to realize violence that is allowed to run without limits, cruelty that is normalized, will one day reverse itself. Not always in the form we imagine, but in a definite form. The fire that burns is not just trees, it burns arrogance. It burns a false sense of security. It burns the illusion of unlimited power. And when the first rain finally falls, extinguishing the remains of the fire, the land remains smoking, like a heart burning with regret. Perhaps, say the wise, this is just the beginning. Perhaps, say the more stubborn, this is just an ordinary trial. But the earth, the sky, and time always remember, because in this world, karma never forgets its address. When the rain finally fell, the earth sighed. There were no more flames, only wet ash and a thin layer of smoke hanging in the air. People emerged from their shelters, stomping across the scorched earth, as if searching for something they had lost, something they would never find again. Some looked up at the sky, praying, hoping another storm would not come. Others stood still, watching the once green forest turn into a black desert. Life can come back, someone said, but it will never be the same. In the silence, some began to remember the sound of a Palestinian child crying as his home was destroyed, a mother searching for her child in the rubble, a grandfather who had lost his land for no apparent reason. Did we care then? Did we cry for them as we cry now for ourselves? The questions echoed without answers. In schools, teachers tried to comfort the children with stories of resilience and rebuilding. In the small mosques of Palestine, Friday sermons are filled with verses about God's unsleeping justice. Patience, so they say, every injustice has its time to be repaid, whether in this world or in the next. The world watches, some with pity, some with interpretive silence. News stories roll in, images circulate. An Israeli farmer weeps in his scorched vineyard, just like the farmers in Gaza whose fields were destroyed by bulldozers. If only mercy had come sooner. If only we had understood the suffering before we experienced it ourselves. But regret, like ashes, is easily carried away by the wind, vanishing before it can be a lesson. Most are busy building new walls, new fences, new defense systems. Meanwhile, old wounds bleed on both sides of the wall. In the corners of the city, people whisper, "Is this the end? Or is this just the beginning of something bigger?" Meanwhile, the weary earth only murmurs in a language that only the hearts that truly hear can understand. I will continue to bear witness. In this critical situation, the international community must not remain silent. Support for Gaza must be strengthened, not only in the form of humanitarian aid, but also political and diplomatic pressure on Israel to stop its aggression. Humanitarian organizations, friendly countries, and all individuals who care about justice must move together, calling for an end to violence and respect for the human rights of the Palestinian people. Today, Gaza is not only a symbol of suffering, but also a symbol of resistance to global injustice. Children in Gaza who have lost their families, women who struggle to survive amidst the rubble, and millions of people who live in poverty are clear witnesses to the world's failure to uphold humanitarian values. They need more than just pity. They need real action. Every bomb that falls on Gaza, every house that is destroyed, every life that is lost is a loud call that must awaken the world's conscience. We must realize that silence means allowing the cruelty to continue. We must realize that our solidarity is not just a choice, but a moral obligation. From every corner of the world, protests have begun to echo. On the streets of Europe, America, Asia, Africa, millions of people have taken to the streets, carrying posters, shouting slogans, waving Palestinian flags. They know that this struggle is not just about one nation against another, but the struggle of all humanity against injustice. Israel must be held accountable for all the destruction it has caused. Every country that still supports this crime must also be reminded that history will not forget and the world will not forgive. We are at a crucial crossroads. Do we allow this atrocity to continue, or do we unite against it and stop it? Gaza is calling us. Palestine is calling us. Humanity is calling us. There is no time for hesitation. There is no room for silence. We must stand on the right side of this history, with Gaza, with Palestine, with all victims of injustice. Continue to speak out for the truth. Continue to support the resistance of the people of Gaza, and continue to oppose all forms of occupation and genocide wherever they occur. because justice must prevail, because humanity must live, because Gaza, Palestine, and the world deserve true peace. As the fires in Israel's forests continue to burn, and the world watches as the country struggles against the wrath of nature, we must also remember that in Gaza, the fires of human suffering burn far deeper and far longer. The fires in Israel may be extinguished in a matter of days, perhaps leaving their mark on trees and buildings, but the fires in Gaza have burned for generations, destroying hopes, destroying futures, and killing the dreams of children who never chose to be born into war. Every military assault Israel has made on Gaza has torn apart more than buildings. It has torn at the heart of humanity. Gaza today is not just a spot on a map, it is an open wound in the heart of the world. A wound that continues to bleed, demanding attention, demanding justice. We must not allow the world to grow accustomed to Gaza's suffering. We must not allow their suffering to become another statistic on our news screens. We must continue to see them as human beings, as brothers and sisters, as part of the great human family whose rights we must fight for. Many have tried to silence the truth. Many mainstream media outlets have tried to distract, downplay Gaza's suffering, justify Israel's aggression in the name of self-defense. But the truth cannot be silenced. The blood shed in Gaza is living proof that justice still trumps power. We must speak out even when our voices are diminished. We must stand up even when the world tries to make us sit still. Because every voice for Gaza is a small light in the darkness of oppression. And when enough small lights come together, the world can change. Today more than ever, we are called to choose. Do we stand for justice, or do we allow injustice to continue to prevail? Do we stand for humanity, or do we allow evil to destroy the future of an oppressed people? Do we stand up for the right to life of Gaza's children, or do we look away as if nothing has happened? The choice is ours. Our actions today will determine the face of the world tomorrow. Gaza is not asking for much. They are asking for their basic human rights. The right to live, to be free, to dream. They don't ask for mercy, they demand justice. And justice, supposedly, is not something that needs to be asked for. Justice is the right of all humans, including those who are crying today in the ruins of their homes in Gaza. We must not stop at words. We must not let our anger and concern be mere echoes. It is time to act. It is time to turn pain into power. It is time to turn tears into fuel for struggle. Start with what we can. Use our voices on social media. Spread the truth. Expose the lies. Show the world that there is something bigger than propaganda. The human conscience that demands justice. Support trusted humanitarian agencies. Help them channel aid to the people of Gaza who are starving, thirsty, homeless, and without hope. Every dollar, every prayer, every small step we take means a lot to them. Pressure our government. Pressure international organizations. We must push for strong decisions, sanctions for the aggressors, protection for the victims, and a path for justice. We must ensure that this massacre does not happen again. Take to the streets if possible. Together, let us show our solidarity. Bring the voice of Gaza to a world that sometimes plays deaf, because solidarity is not just an attitude, it is resistance to injustice. Remember, change does not come from silence. Change is born from the determination of those who refuse to give up. We are part of that wave of change. Every step we take, no matter how small, leads to one goal: free Palestine, free Gaza, an end to colonialism, justice. For that, we must swear in our hearts that we will not stop, that we will not give up, that we will not let the world forget Gaza. Gaza is us. Palestine is us. Humanity is us. If one child in Gaza can survive amidst destruction, then we who live in peace have no reason to give up. If one mother in Gaza can still hold her child amidst the ruins, then we must not let their struggle be in vain. We stand with Gaza. We fight with Palestine until justice truly prevails, until Palestine is free, until the world returns to the side of truth and humanity. Allahu Akbar. Long live Palestine, free Gaza, free Palestine, for justice, for humanity, for a more dignified future for all.